withdrawal of the legal tender character of the old 500 and 1000 rupee notes, so the currency related issues. But before that, very briefly, I would like to also touch upon I would like to comment on the 25 basis points increase in rates by the US Fed. Now, one thing that has to be noted in this connection is that it ends the uncertainty which has been there over the last 1 year or so with regard to the hike in US Fed rate. Because earlier the US Fed had said that during 2016 there will be 4 rate hikes, and there was always speculation, there was always expectation that there will be a rate hike, and it did not happen. But anyway, before the close of the year, there has been a 25 basis points increase. So it ends uncertainty, and at the same time they have given a roadmap for 2017 and 18. They have talked about 4 rate hikes in 2017 and 4 rate hikes in 2018. Now, how many of those rate hikes will actually happen? We have to wait and see, because this year also they had said there will be 4 hikes. And in any case, the situation internationally also, as you are aware, the situation constantly is constantly evolving, and is ever changing. So obviously they will have to react to situations as they arise. The projection, the growth outlook, that is the projection with regard to growth and the outlook for growth which the US Fed has projected, it's a very, very marginal wafer thin improvement of growth projections. And so what is to be noted is that in other words, the growth outlook remains fairly stable. It has not declined, consequent to so many other developments of Brexit, and now the vote in Italy and the other developments which are taking place. The growth outlook remains fairly stable, and marginal improvement which has been projected by the US Fed. Now, with regard to impact on India, I think the markets had already factored in a possible rate hike of 25 basis points. So therefore, I would expect our markets, our currency markets, and other markets to stabilize, after some initial kind of ripples or volatility, what you may call. But that also has not been visible so far. And I think whatever movement is taking place in the stock markets or in the currency markets, whatever has taken place today is nothing unusual. So I think our markets have already factored in that rate hike. So I think our markets, including currency markets, would remain stable, would remain fairly stable. Now, coming to the currency related issues, it's about already 5 weeks since the decision was announced, and the exchange of new notes for the old notes have commenced. You see, one thing which I think which has been missed out in all this during the last 5 weeks or so, that this is the first time that the security features, the design of the notes are entirely indigenously designed, and they have been done in-house. And earlier, if you look at the earlier 500 rupee notes or the other notes, which were the old notes, they were all designed outside and designed fairly, like quite long time ago. But this is the first time that these 500 rupee notes and 2000 rupee notes, which you are seeing, have been entirely indigenously designed. The security features also have been inbuilt. So to that extent, these notes are much more much more secure, and the possibility or the scope of counterfeiting or imitation, or counterfeiting or coming out with fake Indian currency notes, to that extent it is far, far lower than the kind of scope which existed earlier. And the security features have been inbuilt. It's entirely an in-house design. So that is a positive aspect which I think we must note. And with regard to the supply of notes, the situation has been constantly improving day by day. Steadily it is improving. Initial focus was to supply 2000 rupee notes, so that in terms of value you replace the total value which is being taken out of the market consequent on the deposit of the old 500 and 1000 rupee notes. But parallelly, printing of 500 rupee notes had started. It's not as if they had not started. Parallelly, the printing of 500 rupee notes had started, and as we went by, the more and more production lines have now been diverted for printing 500 rupee notes, because there is we have enough number of 2000 rupee notes which have already been supplied, and there is enough number of stock which is available. But the printing of 500 rupee notes have now been significantly stepped up, and it is being pushed into it is being sort of supplied to the market, so that the circulation of the old 2000 rupee notes, that becomes much more mobile. Because there was a tendency, all of you are aware, and we have seen, people were tending to hold on to the old 2000 rupee notes. So with supply of 500 rupee notes in bigger numbers, it is expected that 2000 rupee notes which people are holding in their wallets or elsewhere, it will come back into circulation. So the focus now in printing is now on printing more of 500 rupee notes, and both the BRB NMPL, which is the two printing presses of RBI, and the two printing presses of the Securities and the SPMCIL, they have, both of them are now concentrating on 500 rupee notes. Of course, there is printing of 100 rupee notes, 50 rupee notes, which are continuing. Now the 50 rupee notes and 20 rupee notes and 10 rupee notes, they run on different machines, and these high denomination notes are on different machines altogether because of their inherent design features of these currency notes. Now the process of distribution also has now been further streamlined. Each printing press has been linked to areas around it. I mean, they don't have to, that in order to avoid what you call crisscross movement of stocks of notes, the entire distribution network and the process has been further streamlined. Airlifting is continuing to be done wherever necessary, and certain situations we find that there is a sudden report of shortage of currency, so airlifting is being continued wherever necessary. Emphasis has also been given in, as I had mentioned earlier, in making adequate cash available to the cooperative banks, to the district central cooperative banks also, for the purpose of disbursement of crop loans. On a daily basis, we are in touch with the NABARD, we are in touch with RBI, and also with the banks, to ensure that the district central cooperative banks get adequate cash, so that they are in a position to give the cash component of the crop loans to the farmers. So in terms of total sowing area under Rabi, we are, there has not been any significant, we are almost on par with last year, and little bit of whatever shortfall was there, it is expected that they will probably be made up in the coming weeks. Emphasis is also being given to give greater cash to rural areas from where we are getting reports of shortage of cash. Our committee of joint secretaries is in constant touch with the state administrations to identify possible areas or pockets or rural areas where there are complaints of inadequate availability of cash, and arrangements are being made to supply cash to those areas. The Reserve Bank has also issued instructions after discussion with the Finance Ministry and the government. The Reserve Bank has issued instructions that at the currency chest level, the district coordinator who works under the aegis of the SLBC, each state has a state level bankers committee. So the district coordinators who are working under the aegis of the SLBC, they are working in tandem they are working in close coordination with the currency chests, and they are planning the distribution of cash, because as a district coordinator, he has a certain information which perhaps the currency chest owning bank will not get. And then also there were reports, because each currency chest which is managed by a bank is feeding branches of various banks. So to ensure that there is equitable distribution of cash among branches of various banks, this mechanism also has been put in place and is working. Now there have been reports of illegal accumulation of new currency notes, and there the enforcement agencies have further stepped up their surveillance mechanisms and their enforcement action. It's being reported by various all the media, various sections of the media have been reporting it. The banks have also further tightened their internal surveillance and the vigilance mechanisms. And let me point out that the kind of action which the enforcement agencies are taking are based on specific inputs, based on specific data mining which has been done by the revenue authorities, based on inputs given by the FIU. The FIU India provides data with regard to cash deposits, with regard to suspicious transactions. So based on those data which are coming, these data are being further processed. The data mining is being done, that is being further analyzed, and based on specific inputs, based on specific conclusions which come out of this kind of analysis, the further action is taken by the taken by the tax department. So it is not just it's not aimless fishing expedition or anything of that sort. It's very pointed, focused, and very pointed and focused action, what you call a surgical action, if you can use that word, based on information. Now, so that action is continued. And with regard to digital transactions, already I think a number of inputs have been given out. Earlier today also, I think there was a press conference where the information has been given out by the CEO of Niti Aayog. And in the meantime, we have received the report given by the Committee on Digital Transactions. If you recall, last February, the Cabinet had approved certain measures to be taken for promotion of digital transactions in our economy. Pursuant to that, a task force was set up, and this committee was set up under the chairmanship of the former Finance Secretary, Mr. Ratan Wattal. That report has come, and that report also, we have gone through the reports. Timelines have been drawn up for its implementation. So, in other words, I would like to conclude here and stop here by saying that both the government, the finance ministry, the government, the various wings of government, the Reserve Bank of India, the enforcement agencies, and of course the banks, everybody is working in tandem to ensure that the situation eases out. And I can say with confidence that the situation has considerably improved, and going forward, I think I would expect in the next 3 weeks or so, the situation will 2 to 3 weeks or so, the situation will considerably ease out with with supply of more and more of 500 rupee notes. But sir, I would also just like to add that the lower denomination notes which we have supplied during this period, I would like to mention a word or two about that. The total quantum of notes, the number of notes of lower denomination, by lower denomination I mean 100 rupees and below, 100, 50, 20 and 10. The total number of currency notes which normally Reserve Bank supplies in a year, 3 times of that notes have been supplied over the last 5 weeks or so. Just to give an example, for example, take the case of 100 rupee notes. The 100 rupee notes, about 1,60,000 crores were in circulation on 8th of November. Between 8th November and now, more than 80,000 crores additional, 80,000 crores in terms of value. I am talking about rupees in value. So rupees 1,60,000 crores of 100 rupee notes were in circulation on 8th November. Over the last 5 weeks, rupees 80,000 crores worth of 100 rupee notes have been supplied to the market. Similar is the position with regard to 20 rupee notes, 10 rupee notes and also 50 rupee notes. So considerable amount of lower denomination notes also have been supplied, and the printing of all the lower denomination notes are also continuing in different machines, and they will be supplied. 1,80,000 crores, rupees 1,80,000 crores of 100 rupee notes were in circulation as on 8th of November.
At year 160.
1,60,000 crores. 1.6 lakh crores. 100 rupee notes. And now additionally 80,000 crores of rupees 100 rupee notes have been supplied. Yeah. Yeah, you can total it up. Yeah.
I'll
come.
Does it mean
कितने नोट आपने पंप किए सर, अगर वो नंबर आप दे सके 500 to 2000?
You see, number immediately I don't have the number, but I can tell you that roughly whatever has been taken out, I can say that roughly about almost 40, in another week or 10 days, you can say that about almost 45 to 50%, or let's say by the end of the month, about at least 50% of the notes of the kind of notes which became 50% of the notes which were in circulation, which were actually in circulation, at least about 50% of that notes would have been supplied in another 10 to 15 days.
Sir,
सर अभी तक जितना भी जो नोट सीज किए गए हैं सर, वो अमाउंट कितना होगा, क्या उनको सर्कुलेशन में लाया गया है या फिर अभी नहीं लाया गया, जो भी सीज्ड नोट्स थे?
नहीं, जो सीज नोट से वो तुरंत as soon as possible it is being put back into circulation. ये नहीं कि उसको रखे रहे हैं कोर्ट में प्रूव करना, ये नहीं है, इसको that is being put back into circulation. And दूसरा क्वेश्चन क्या था
कि कितना सीज किया गया इस?
नहीं, सीज का फिगर मेरे पास तुरंत अवेलेबल नहीं है. आपने जो बताया कि कितना मतलब आ गया वापस, उसके बारे में सिर्फ यही कहना चाहता हूँ कि ये जो फिगर्स आ रहे हैं कुछ सेक्शंस ऑफ द मीडिया में, आरबीआई ने कुछ दे हैव अनाउंस सम फिगर्स आल्सो यस्टरडे. यू सी there are lot of areas where we feel that there could be double counting. So we have identified those areas and we have requested RBI and the banks to again double check. So a process of correction, checking, counter checking of the figures, what you call sanitization, or not sanitization, but the checking, the kind of a due diligence is being done to see that there is no double counting of the figures, and that process is on. So once we have some clarity, we will talk about it. Now you have asked once.
जो जांच एजेंसियां हैं उनको एक दिक्कत ये आ रही है कि जो नए नोट सीरीज के जब्त हो रहे हैं वो किस ब्रांच से इशू हुए पता नहीं चल पा रहा, क्योंकि चेस्ट से लेकर
नहीं, उसका जो आप कह रहे हैं कि किस ब्रांच से आया है, उसके बारे में हमने वो एक लोकल लेवल में ईच रीजनल डायरेक्टर जो है आरबीआई के, उनके साथ जो लोकल ऑफिशियल्स इनकम टैक्स डिपार्टमेंट के, और जहां जहां जरूरत है सीबीआई की हो या एनफोर्समेंट डायरेक्टरेट की हो, लोकल लेवल में उनका एक जॉइंट कोऑर्डिनेशन मैकेनिज्म फॉर्म किया गया है, और वो डाटा माइनिंग करके दे आर एबल टू वी फील दैट दे विल बी इन ए पोजीशन टू नैरो डाउन to the source, कहाँ से ये notes आए. I'll come
one
back.
quick question.
Sir, although you're saying that a lot of currency printing is happening, still when you go to a bank branch, they're suffering with cash crunch. Do you think post 31st of December, when the restrictions go off, situation is only going to worsen from there?
And sir, are you looking at lifting the restrictions after 30th December, sir? Would you be looking at lifting restrictions?
Is it a related question?
Yes, sir.
Are
the restrictions actually
going to be lifted after December 30th?
You see, what government will do on 31st December or after immediately 30th December, I will not be able to say now. You will know it on 30th December. Obviously, we have been communicating. Please, we have been communicating, so we will continue to communicate. And your point about situation will worsen, I don't foresee a situation like that. The situation is improving, and if anything, the situation will only improve after 30th December, because more and more notes are going on. You see, the problem has been little compounded by the fact that 2000 rupee notes were kept, without putting it back into circulation. So when more 500 rupee notes go into the system, so even 2000 rupee notes also will come out circulation. And let me mention that there has been there has been considerable improvement, but there are, as I mentioned, there are still areas and pockets where we are getting daily complaints, we are getting daily feedback, and based on that, action is being taken.
Two questions. 60,000 accounts are found with 1 crore plus submission. It means a mammoth exercise for the income tax department and other agencies. Do we have that kind of infrastructure to narrow down on people with black money? Two, we also wanted to find out, as far as the ATM announcement goes, it was announced that most of the ATMs are working. The figures that we have got, it shows that only 13% were working in the month of November, out of the announced 30% that you said. Out of 2 lakh,
I have understood the question.
Yeah.
Please be please be brief. Please be brief.
Sir,
Because
just a related question. So if ATMs, most of the ATMs have been recalibrated, then why aren't you increasing the withdrawal limit from the ATMs, sir?
Okay.
And has the cash supply reduced to the ATMs also, sir?
Okay. Now, with regard to the ATMs, as you know, there are 2,20,000 ATMs, and more than 2 lakh ATMs have already been, they have been recalibrated. And currency notes, we get a feedback every day between 8 and 11, and again between 11 and 3, we get a statistics from the banks, how many ATMs are working. I mean, working in the sense that all the ATMs are in working condition, but how many ATMs are in a position, are actually dispensing cash. This 13% which I saw in somewhere, some reports or some, you just mentioned, it's a highly, sort of a kind of a, it's not at all correct. Larger number of ATMs are working. In some cases, what is happening is that some banks, it has come to our notice that some banks, in order to ensure that they are in a position to service their own customers, they prefer to give the cash through their branches. क्योंकि आप ATM में अगर कैश दे रहे हैं तो ATM में कोई अलग बैंक हो, किसी बैंक के भी वो आके कैश ड्रॉ कर सकते हैं. सो कई सारे एग्जांपल्स हमारे मतलब इट हैज़ कम टू आवर नोटिस जहाँ की बैंक ये चाहते हैं कि उनके खुद के जो कस्टमर्स है, क्योंकि खुद के कस्टमर्स कंप्लेंट भी कर रहे हैं, वो भी हो रहा है, तो आई डोंट ब्लेम एनीबॉडी इन द प्रोसेस. सो ये हमने बैंकों, जो बैंक्स है, वी हैव ऑलरेडी एडवाइज द बैंक्स कि आप ATM में जो कैश सप्लाई करते हैं, जो कैश लोडिंग करते हैं, उसको तुरंत आप जारी रखिए एंड डोंट सॉर्ट ऑफ स्टार्व एनी ATMs. सो इसको रेगुलरली हम लोग मॉनिटर कर रहे हैं. And with regard to the cash limit, as and when a decision cash limit for withdrawal of ATMs, you see इसको इसीलिए लिया गया था that the emphasis was to ensure that larger number of people are getting should get the notes. अभी ये complaint भी हमारे नज़र में आ रहा है कि कुछ लोग 24,000 मिल रहा है, कुछ लोगों को नहीं मिल रहा है. So therefore it has come to our notice also कि कुछ banks में branch manager locally उन लोगों ने ये डिसाइड किया है कि ठीक है, सब मतलब लिमिटेड नंबर ऑफ पीपल, इंस्टेड ऑफ गिविंग देम 24,000 रुपीज, सबको मतलब थोड़ा लोअर अमाउंट 15,000 या 20,000 या 10,000 दे दे, तो वो भी लोकल लेवल में वो कर रहे हैं. सो देयरफॉर ATMs का व्हेनेवर अ डिसीजन इज द डिसीजन ऑफ दैट लिमिट वाज इन द बैकग्राउंड of the fact that we want to ensure that more number of people are able to draw cash.
Answer my first question, sir.
Just a follow-up on what you said.
Was 60,000, 60?
No, that your question about that case which you are referring to in one bank, huge amount of
Axis Bank,
huge. Let's not take the name of any bank.
Yeah.
Now the huge amounts have been deposited. Let me mention that all this information are based on the inputs which we are getting from which the revenue department, the tax authorities, the CBDT is getting from the FIU, and what the CBDT system also itself generates, and it is based on data analysis. So when you see that in a particular bank, in a particular branch, there has been deposit of more than 1 crore, too many cases. So naturally the department, income tax department, narrows down to that branch and tries to find out, finds out who are the people, what are their credentials, what are their background, do they have the means to deposit 1 crore. So it is a very scientific.
But banks don't seem to be doing their job, sir. So banks don't seem to be doing their job. They're not doing, and the desired thing. They're not even following.
You are making up just a sec. I mean, that is your observation, but let me say that if an account is KYC compliant, we have to see as a part of our verification also, the income tax department and the enforcement directorate and wherever required the CBI, they are verifying whether it was a KYC compliant account or not. And the banks have been sufficiently sensitized, all the banks, both public and private sector banks have been sufficiently sensitized कि आपका इंटरनल जो सर्वेलेंस मैकेनिज्म है, बैंकों का जो इंटरनल सर्वेलेंस मैकेनिज्म है, ये अभी नहीं, ये मतलब 4 हफ्ते पहले उनको सेंसिटाइज किया गया था, कि 4-5 हफ्ते पहले उनको सेंसिटाइज किया गया था कि आपका जो इंटरनल सर्वेलेंस मैकेनिज्म है, इंटरनल विजिलेंस जो मैकेनिज्म है, उसको आप एक्टिवेट करिए, और इसी टाइप का कोई सस्पिशियस ट्रांजैक्शन अगर होता है तो उसको आप रिपोर्ट करिए. और मैं ये भी कहना चाहता हूँ, ये जो STRs आते हैं, सस्पिशियस ट्रांजैक्शन रिपोर्ट्स, that report is generated by the banks. So therefore, let us not paint all the banks in same brush. सारे STRs जो आते हैं, suspicious transaction reports, they are generated by the bank officials. So वो जो report दे रहे हैं, उसी के आधार पर further investigation हो रहा है.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/etnow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at etnowlive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/etnow.